What's your most NSFW family moment? During my high school years, I would have sex with my first serious girlfriend in the finished basement of her house, while her family was at home to avoid any unexpected interruptions. After finishing, it was common practice for us to tie the condom in a knot and avoid throwing it in the trash bin to prevent her mother from finding it during cleaning. I left the used condom on top of the ping pong table, intending to take it with me when we decided to leave, as the ping pong table was located next to the couch. However, I made a mistake. Her father and younger brother decided to go downstairs and play ping pong at that moment. The brother discovered the used condom first, saw the semen dripping from it and held it out, asking his father what it was. The father's face was filled with terror as he screamed at his son to drop it and rushed upstairs, pulling his son's arm as he did so, all while maintaining eye contact with me. This incident may have instilled a fear of birth control in my girlfriend, as she became pregnant by a man her father's age during her college years. Story 2. I returned to my hometown to visit my family and decided to meet up with my dad and stepmom. They were out enjoying drinks with some of our closest family friends. As the evening progressed, they became increasingly intoxicated and rowdy. I couldn't help but notice that the women, including my stepmom, started behaving flirtatiously towards each other. It's important to note that there were 5 couples, including my parents, present at this gathering. Witnessing this overtly sexual behavior in public and among people I had grown up with made me feel quite uncomfortable. After observing the situation for a while, I couldn't hold back my confusion any longer and asked my parents, "What on earth is happening here?" My stepmom burst into laughter and in her drunken state replied, "Honestly, you're the only person in this room I haven't slept with." Naturally, I felt extremely unsettled by her response, and I promptly decided to leave. Story 3. When I was a child, around 8 years old, the PlayStation was located in my parents' bedroom. It was our usual spot to play Gran Turismo with my younger brother. Our gameplay strategy consisted of driving a Suzuki Escudo at full throttle without ever hitting the brakes, managing to win races with a whole lap ahead of everyone else. One day, my brother became angry about something and impulsively threw his controller, causing it to detach from the console and land on top of my parents' wardrobe. Being small in size, we attempted to climb onto the wardrobe to retrieve it, but in the process, we accidentally knocked over various items, causing them to fall on us. Suddenly, I felt a soft object hit my forehead. To my surprise, it resembled a significantly large penis. My brother picked it up from the ground, puzzled by its appearance. Curiosity got the better of me and I took it from him, convinced that it must belong to a mannequin or something similar. You see, I had never seen a naked mannequin before and assumed they had penises too. Instinctively, I threw the object back up onto the wardrobe, but my little brother had already dashed downstairs to inform our parents about the strange discovery in their bedroom. In a rush, my parents hurried upstairs and questioned me about what we had found. I explained that we had come across something resembling a plastic horse's penis and had thrown it back up onto the wardrobe. Since that incident, we relocated the PlayStation to our own room. Story 4. Previously, during my high school years, I used to work with my girlfriend on weekends, and afterwards, we would go to her house and typically have around 2 hours before her parents returned. Sometimes, we would take a nap, watch a movie, or engage in intimate activities. One particular Saturday, our nap session turned into sex. However, during our encounter, her sister's boyfriend unexpectedly started banging on her bedroom door, causing us to panic and quickly dress ourselves. We opened the door to find that it was just her sister's boyfriend playing a prank on us. We shut the door and continued our activities, but this time, my girlfriend's moans turned into loud yells. I was humping with intense passion when we heard another round of banging on the door. This time, we ignored it and carried on for approximately 10 seconds before we heard her father's furious voice through the door. He immediately drove me home in his police cruiser, and we spent around 45 minutes in silence, with his shotgun in the back seat and a condom still on my completely limp penis. Story 5. During my childhood, my brother and I shared a bedroom. One night, I was awakened by moaning and sounds of pain. I looked over and saw my brother getting out of bed while clutching his stomach and quickly leaving the room. Imagine a chubby 9-year-old wearing only loose boxers, hobbling, sprinting down the hallway. I was hit with a foul smell, and I noticed a trail of wet, splattery feces everywhere. My brother finished running and slammed into the bathroom. However, instead of a sigh of relief, there was an almost audible sigh of disappointment. It turned out that when he went to relieve himself, he had nothing left. The best part was that he didn't realize where the feces had gone until he walked out of the bathroom and saw his fecal legacy spread out behind him. As an added detail, at the time, we had extended family staying over, including my brother's crush, his hot cousin. Story 6. I was relocating, and my parents offered to assist me in packing. My girlfriend and I have a box containing various items related to our sexual preferences, including a strap-on, pumps, rope, a butt plug, lubricant, and rings. My girlfriend, in a playful mood, labeled the box as books, but added eyes to the letter O to make it look like breasts. While unloading boxes in my new place, my father entered carrying the books box. Rob Stark deserved it. This box seems unusually light for books. Let me double check if this is the correct box, he said. No, I know what's inside. Before I could finish, he opened the box, revealing its contents. I could sense the scent of various fluids permeating the air. He stared at the items for about 20 seconds, processing the situation. At this point, I had moved beyond feeling embarrassed and was prepared for him to criticize my sexual preferences. However, he simply closed the box and left the room, giving off a vibe of disappointment. 20 minutes later, he returned and asked me directly without any preamble, "Why do you need another penis?" "Well, it feels good," I replied. It was at that moment that I realized my father, who is a strict, military conservative individual, had no idea what a strap-on was. This revelation opened up a whole new conversation. Story 7. One Thanksgiving, several years ago, my mother came up with the idea that before eating, everyone at the table would share what they were grateful for. My father repeatedly objected, stating that it was a bad idea, but my mother insisted. As we sat at the table, my entire family was present. My brother, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, and my grandmother. My father volunteered to go first, and my mother's expression was a mix of worry and uncertainty about what he might say. My father said, "I'm thankful that I'm 50 years old and I can still get a rock-hard erection." Half the table burst out laughing, while the other half felt uncomfortable. My mother was furious, but my father had achieved his goal and put an end to the entire process. Then it was time for dinner. Story 8. After dating my ex-girlfriend for a few months in the past, I was invited to spend Christmas Eve at her house and stay overnight to celebrate Christmas morning together. This was a significant event for me, as it was my first serious adult relationship. It's worth mentioning that I had undergone a kidney transplant just 4 months prior, adding to the nerves I was already feeling. We arrived at their house around noon to start preparing spaghetti for the evening. I welcomed the task as it helped distract me from my anxiety. Once my part in the cooking was done, I found myself turning to alcohol to cope with my nerves. I ended up drinking excessively due to my low tolerance resulting from the recent transplant. The party was enjoyable, and I made new friends and shared laughs. Unfortunately, my memory fades towards the end of the night as I blacked out. According to her sister, she witnessed me in her dad's office, laughing uncontrollably at the paper shredder. I was then found lying in the hallway, singing show tunes and running around the front of their house without my shirt or shoes on, despite it being December in the northern region. The most embarrassing moment came when everyone had fallen asleep, and I was still awake and moving around. The next thing I knew, my girlfriend woke me up on Christmas morning, yelling at me, "Did you defecate in the hallway last night?" Taken aback, I could only respond with the only answer that came to mind. No?" She accused me, saying, "I bet you did." In detective mode, she proceeded to pull down my pants and inspect my buttocks. I had cookie butt. Story 9. I stayed at my parents' place after my brother's wedding. My mother is a large woman, and by large I mean extremely big. My father, although smaller in size, is sturdy and resilient. At this point, both of them were well into their 50s, and as far as I knew, not sexually active. So, we're back at their apartment after the wedding. Everyone's slightly buzzed, but not saying much. Then I sense an odd and unfamiliar tension between my parents. They exchange glances. Seductive glances? Please God, no. My mother smiles at my dad and announces, "I'm going to bed," as she rises from her seat and waddles down the hallway into their bedroom. Moments later, "Doug." My dad looks at me, utterly perplexed. "Doug." Both of us gaze down the hallway. Nothing. We look at each other. "Doug." Our attention shifts back to the hallway, and this time, my mother's chubby, naked leg slowly and seductively emerges from the doorway. "Doug." My eyebrows shoot up, and I find myself holding my breath. I glance over at my father. He nervously looks at me and then back at the tempting, plump leg at the end of the hall. "Doug." My dad's eyes dart around before finally settling on the floor. He appears almost ashamed as he says, "I'm going to bed, son." As soon as he gets up from his chair, I frantically search for the remote control. What took you so long, soldier? I shudder as I press the power button. I need to find a channel quickly. Disturbing sounds that cannot be unheard are emanating from down the hall. Finally, I settle on HBO, Schindler's List. I crank up the volume to the maximum. So yeah, I ended up watching a Holocaust movie while my parents engaged in intimate activities in the adjacent room. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel not to miss new cool videos. See you soon.